Hi, my name is Carly, and today I'd like to talk to you about our civic responsibility to vote. So what do diapers and politicians have in common? They both need to be changed often and for the same reason. So this joke kind of puts a lighthearted spin on a big issue that our country is facing today. So many people are wondering how they can choose a politician that they can trust to represent their values and what's important to them. So amongst all this turmoil of so many different ideas and opinions, so many people ask themselves, how can they know who to vote for, and will their vote even matter? Despite the challenges of so many different views and ideas, our participation in the future of our country is vital for its success. Each person's involvement is required for this country to thrive. We all need to be informed voters and exercise that right to vote. I have been a lifelong lover of the United States of America. Ever since I was a kid, my parents have instilled in me a love for this great country. And I've spent numerous hours studying its history and its government and learning about it and becoming involved in political events in my community and in the country. And so I was really saddened when I found out this statistic. So according to the Federal Election Commission, in the last presidential election, just under 55% of eligible voters turned out to vote. This was such a sad statistic to me, because how can we expect our country to be great if only half of its citizens care enough to go down the street and vote? We all have a responsibility to be informed and vote on a state and national level. The only way we can make a difference in this country is if we become involved in it, and one of the best ways that we can be involved and make a change is by voting. To better understand this wonderful right and privilege that we've been given, I'd like to discuss a few different things. First, the history of our right to vote. Second, how we can get involved in the government and become more informed on the issues. Third, I'd like to discuss why each of our votes really does matter. And lastly, how voting can increase our national pride. It is our responsibility as Americans to vote. Voting is a constitutional right and privilege. Today, all Americans over the age of 18 have the right to vote, regardless of race or gender. There are a few exceptions, however, such as felons. Some of the District of Columbia residents also aren't able to vote, and there are some complications surrounding homeless voters. But for the most part, this right has become so inclusive of so many different Americans so that we all can make a change and let our voice be heard. This right to vote has undergone a lot of reform in the past. Originally, the U.S. Constitution granted the right to vote, but it didn't necessarily specify who was eligible. It left that up to the individual states to determine. So at first, only male property owners were allowed to vote. And most of the changes that have happened in the past are due to a few specific amendments. Those amendments are the 15th, the 19th, and the 26th Amendment, which really change and reform the voting laws. In the 15th Amendment, it allows all men the right to vote regardless of race. According to this amendment, it is prohibited for the federal or state governments to deny a citizen the right to vote based on the citizen's race, color, or previous conditions of servitude. The 19th Amendment allows all women the right to vote. Activists such as Susan B. Anthony, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, and Alice Paul, and many others helped to catalyze this movement and get the right to vote to women. Finally, the 26th Amendment lowers the age requirement for voting from 21 to 18. This was largely due to Vietnam War protesters who pointed out that if a man was old enough to fight and die for his country, then he was old enough to vote for it too. So there's a rich history in our rights to vote. And by not exercising our right to vote, it kind of shows a disregard for the sacrifices of so many people. I really believe that the choice to abstain from voting really shows a lack of appreciation for these sacrifices. So we can't expect our country to change if we don't become involved in it ourselves. Many people wonder, though, how they can get informed and involved. So there are numerous ways to get informed and involved in the country. You can study up on different candidates and issues on the internet and social media. You can watch the debates. You can pay attention to the news and attend rallies. You can talk to other people about the candidates and issues. That's one of my favorites, just talking to my friends and family about different issues and candidates and figuring out. Sure, it sometimes erupts into some political arguments, but you really get a lot of different views and opinions. You could even write a letter or an email to a candidate with some of your questions, and you'll likely hear back from them personally or from one of their representatives. There are lots of other ways you can get informed as well, but all of these things require some degree of effort. But if we make the sacrifice of our time and effort, then I know that it will be made worth it in the end. Many people, however, feel like their vote really won't make a difference and that it doesn't really matter, so they decide not to participate at all in voting. However, if everybody used this logic, then where would our country be and how would it function? We need to all participate in order for our form of government to be effective. In our country, we are all blessed to have a voice. Voting allows our values to be represented. By voting for a candidate that best represents your standards and what you value, then you can take an active role in protecting yourself and your family. Gandhi said, "Be the change you wish to see in the world." Voting is a way for us all to be a part of that change. Voting is an act of expression. It's not only valuable for you, but it's also valuable to your country. And by expressing yourself and what's important to you, then you can feel like you have a voice and are important to your country. Voting also increases our national pride. Voting rallies people together for the cause of their country. While politics seem to drive people apart, it also brings millions of people together. The political energy that erupts in our country is one of my favorite things around election times. There's so much excitement and so many different, there's a political surge in the air, and I think that's amazing because that's really what our country was founded on in the beginning. When we exercise our constitutional rights in general, it increases our love and appreciation for those rights. If we all take the time to be an informed voter, then a deeper love for this country and its people will grow in our hearts. Voting will also help us increase in gratitude for those who came before us and paved the way for each of us to enjoy the rights we have today. So many countries in the world don't have the right to have a voice or to be represented in government. And so as we vote, we'll recognize that great gift that we've been given. So in conclusion, we are all vital to this country's success. Knowledge of the history of our right to vote can engender in us a greater love and appreciation for that right. As we get involved and informed on the candidates and issues, we will be able to vote for those who represent our values and our opinions. Each vote does matter and can create a stronger sense of national pride in us. Franklin D. Roosevelt once said, "Nobody will ever deprive the American people of their right to vote, except the American people themselves, and the only way they can do this is by not voting." I hope that none of us would ever choose to deprive ourselves of one of our sacred rights, especially the right to vote. It's not hard to get involved and to find out what's going on in the country. And as we do and we get out there and vote, then I know that we will all begin to feel a greater love for this country and its people. And we'll feel a greater sense of purpose and belonging here as well. So, get out there, get involved, and vote. Thank you for listening. Have a great night.